That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Deliverance, the 6th film directed by Lee Daniels, which Netflix released theatrically August 16th, 2024. It will be available to stream on their platform August 30th, 2024.
I know Lee Daniels.
As we all should.
The Paperboy. Precious. Shadowboxer.
Oh, yeah.
The United States versus Billie Holiday.
Yes.
Lee Daniels presents The Butler.
Lee Daniels, The Butler, yep. He also, before he became a director, was a notable producer. His first producing credit was Monsters Ball.
Oh, sure. You had seen this movie a while ago.
I did.
And when you described it to me, I was very excited about seeing it.
Uh-huh. As soon as I finished, I was like, I cannot wait to talk about this movie with you.
I watched it, and it's something to see.
Oh, yeah. That's one way to put it.
What is it about? A family living in a home in Indiana discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them and the community that the house is a portal to hell.
It says Indiana?
Yeah.
Oh.
Specifically Gary, Indiana. Well, it's based on true events. A woman named LaToya Amons, and she's from Gary, Indiana. I did some research on it. Also, of course, everyone knows Gary, Indiana is the home of the Jackson family.
Not Louisiana, Paris, France, New York, or Rome.
But this film is set in Pittsburgh, 2011.
Yep.
What's your pull quote?
A cast of exemplary women provide intense, over-the-top performances in Lee Daniels' shambolic curdled stew of a possession film, which works best as an overbaked study on intergenerational class and race trauma.
Mine. An Oscar winner and 3 nominees are on the Hot Mess Express in this so bad it's fun family possession drama. This movie, I was howling the entire time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But this is not a good movie. It's not.
What's that Mystery Science Theater treatment? A touch of Satan.
I mean, I was laughing more than anything.
Oh, yeah. It's choices were made, my lord.
The cast is spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
Andra Day, Monique, Glenn Close, Aunjanue Ellis.
And Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor.
Sorry. So, yes.
Tasha Smith.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about Tasha Smith. She's in the thing.
Miss Lawrence.
Miss Lawrence is in it. Okay, the story. It's pretty simple. So Andra Day plays a woman named Ebony. She has 3 children, like a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and maybe like a 9-year-old. And they've just moved into a new house she rented. Her husband is estranged. He's in the military and has been deployed. But it's vague as to whether or not he's returning. But he's still in communication with his kids because his kids are kind of afraid of their mother. She clearly has addiction issues. She would appear to be violent. And now we see that she has her mother living with her. So Glenn Close is playing Andra Day's mother.
Alberta.
And Alberta is a piece of work.
Oh my God.
All I have to say is when the Academy Awards does the in memoriam for Glenn Close, they better include a still from this movie. Which I have to say, some of her outfits and her hairdo, I've seen my mom look like that.
I was reminded of your mother.
Like a jazzy lady with style who's really done up.
Oh, yeah.
Except my mom is like 20 years younger. But
she's got, Glenn's in, 77 now? I mean, she's pretty violent. They have Glenn doing things in this, rolling around on the floor. It's crazy.
It's crazy. But anyway, so Andra's in this new house and weird things are happening, specifically with her youngest child, Andre.
Played by Anthony B. Jenkins.
And he's like talking to an imaginary friend, like staring off into space. There are flies in the house, like just in places they shouldn't be. Of course, a foul smell is infecting the house. But while all of that's happening, we have a representative from Child Protective Services checking in on Andra, played by Monique.
Cynthia.
And the reason she's there is because Andra's husband has made claims against her, trying to get custody of the kids. So there's a lot of drama, but everything culminates because, of course, the youngest boy is the one having these weird things happening to him, but also the other kids are experiencing things. They have bruises. Monique is concerned. But one day, all of the kids are at school, and orienting myself with time and how much time has passed, I don't think the film is helping with that, because it seems like things get a little weird and then all of a sudden the family is like locked in the house and they don't want to leave. But Monique forces Andra to send her kids to school, and one day the 3 kids are at school and they all experience something weird.
An episode.
Which we'll get to. But because of that, everyone gets hospitalized. And then we witness that Andre, the youngest one, it would appear that he's possessed. Also during this time, Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor is sort of spying on Andra. And as the audience and Andra assumes, she's working for Child Protective Services, but she's not. She is an apostle.
Reverend Bernice James.
Who has familiarity with this house because she had performed a deliverance for the family who lived there before. And to be clear, it's not an exorcism, as she says, because an exorcism requires an intercessor, and she don't need that. So the real gag is that she performed this deliverance for this previous family, and it clearly did not help because that little boy she performed it on died, and then the family, there was like a murder-suicide. So even though her success rate is in the toilet, she confronts Monique and says, I know your house is haunted.
Andra.
She confronts Andra, Ebony, and says, I know your house is haunted. I know your family's possessed. I can help. So she convinces, because at this point, the state has taken Andra's children from her. So Aunjanue convinces Andra to kidnap the little one, Andre, to bring him back to the house so they can perform this deliverance. And up to this point, the film feels like a drama, not unlike the film with Barbara Hershey.
The Entity.
Where she's claiming that she's being assaulted sexually by a ghost.
But also based on a true story.
It kind of has that vibe until the final act where it's full on like Exorcist believer. Like it's just this ridiculous, I'm calling it an exorcism, where we need to get into it. I'm so confused whose body the spirit is like involving, because we don't see the little boy. It's mainly Glenn Close, which we have to talk about. But of course they exorcise or deliver this demon.
Delivered.
And all's well that ends well. And then we see Andra and her family leave the house and move along to Houston.
They ease on down the road to Houston.
Ease on down the road to Houston. Man, I have so many notes that I think maybe we should start with the weird stuff that leads us to believe there's something going on. So I already mentioned that there are flies all over, these big black flies.
There are flies and smells. There are flies coming out of this creepy basement, and Andra Day just she opens the door, sees a bunch of flies, kind of bats at them, and keeps close. No one doesn't go down there for days.
Then we see the little boy Andre. He's talking to an imaginary friend named Trey, which we learn Trey is the name of the boy Aunjanue tried to deliver it. It was unsuccessful. So this demon is tricking little Andre. We see Andre going, like, he likes to sneak down into the basement, and then we see him at one point banging his head up against the door. We see him standing in a corner like the Blair Witch. Then the moment where the 3 kids have incidents at school. So the teenage daughter, her name is Shante.
Played by Demi Singleton, who was a co-star of Aunjanue in King Richard.
Oh. Shante is in like music class and just all of a sudden walks up to the front of the class and like has her period. So we see her bleeding and dripping on the floor. Then Nate, the oldest son,
Caleb McLaughlin,
he's in maybe like history class or English class, and the teacher is talking about the AIDS epidemic and all the stigma associated with it, and she's being how it
disproportionately affected the black community,
exactly,
including her own brother,
and that her own brother died of AIDS, and so she's very passionate about this topic. And Nate starts laughing uncontrollably, like in her face, while the teacher is clearly upset. And then little Andre, the one who I guess is fully possessed, that's the other part of the story that's weird. So everyone's possessed except Glenn Close, but I guess Andre is the one who's most possessed. Little Andre, we see on this day, while his other 2 siblings are being affected, this little boy gets up in class while the teacher is teaching, pops a squat after pulling down his pants, shits on the floor, grabs the feces, eats some of it, throws the rest of it at his teacher, hits her in the face.
It hits her in the face while she's open mouth screaming. It's that shot.
You've never seen anything like this. And I mean, it's just...
in a serious film. Like, oh my God.
So, because of these three things happening, of course, things escalate. Oh my gosh. Well, Nate tries to drown little Andre in the tub, which is pretty dramatic. But then we get explanation of what happened to the previous family. And we see that the wife decapitates her husband. And then her kids come in and she's holding up the husband's head. So, of course, the kids are screaming. And then the mother runs after them. And we're told that she strangled the daughter, like the child, and then killed herself. Then when little Andre is taken to the hospital, that's when we see that we get like a full-on like Andre's possessed moment because he's tied down. It's very Linda Blair in The Exorcist or any other possession movie.
He is tied down in an observation room that is not locked.
And then Monique is in there observing him and he breaks from the straps, jumps like Spider-Man, and then is climbing the wall.
He scoots up the wall.
And I have to say, the effects of all of those moments are pretty subpar.
Monique is shook.
She shook.
Talking to the white doctor, and they still have left this child alone in an observation room.
But the cherry on top of all of this is the ending with the possession, because when little Andre is kidnapped from the hospital, brought home so Aunjanue can deliver him, all of a sudden his body turns into Glenn Close. And Glenn Close is sitting there looking like Nosferatu. Because she has cancer, so she's going through chemo, so she's bald with like a few strands of hair. And then they give her... It reminded me of that movie we reviewed that people seem to enjoy that review because we hated the movie, called Don't Look at the Demon.
Don't Look at the Demon. Yeah, with Harris Dickinson.
It's giving that.
They give her... She has Zuni Fetish Doll.
Yes.
Trilogy of Terror teeth.
Yes.
And black eyes. And
I want to quote a couple of things that her character says to Aunjanue and her daughter, Andra Day.
I'd already seen this, and I was still gasping at these lines.
She tells Aunjanue, Glenn Close tells Aunjanue, I can smell your nappy. And to her own daughter, she says, I should have flushed your ass down the toilet when you were a blood clot.
A clot. Now,
I might have to edit that out. I don't know.
Glenn Close, like, I don't think I've seen most of Glenn Close's performances. There's not one line she's ever had to utter that comes close to being as depraved as that.
I mean, it took my breath away. And then the final moments of the exorcism, so it's not, or the deliverance, is that it's not working because Andra is not religious. She finds it annoying. She really resents it because Glenn Close used to be just as bad of a mother as Andra Day is. That's where I learned it from you, Dad. So now that Glenn Close has turned to religion, Andra has a bad taste in her mouth about it. So the deliverance is not working because she's not a believer. But then all of a sudden she seems to believe, and that's when the demon, who has now taken the form of Andra Day,
herself. So she's combating herself.
Because the demon inside this little boy keeps transforming. Now that she, I guess, believes in an instant, that's when this demon is banished. But it also includes Andra speaking in tongues. But the combination of the subpar visual effects with Andra speaking in tongues, with the score, which is insane. Because while that's happening, because we also have Shante and Nate, the other children, are in foster care. So while this deliverance is happening, they're also being delivered. So like we see Nate like in his undies, like tied to the cross on the floor. With
talons that have grown out of his hands.
And we see Shante being like levitating with the stigmata. It's, I mean, batshit crazy would describe the final act of this film.
Yes. And then there is an open portal to hell in the basement that looks like a big rocky anus. And so this is essentially like that Lucio Fulci trilogy of films about families moving into a place that's right above, a portal to hell.
So I did research on LaToya Amons. This happened in Gary, Indiana. The home is considered like the hell house because of this portal to hell. I think listening to her story, and then I listened to a psychologist talk about her situation and basically saying that, I don't believe in demons, and what she and her family were demonstrating is very clear that the children were reacting to several things. One, kids are very easily influenced. So the fact that the mother was probably goading them into saying certain things, but also demonstrating that these things are real, influenced them. Also the trauma of living in a very toxic household, because we see Andra Day and Glenn Close fighting a lot. Like two women on the street would fight.
Oh yeah, the way that these two talk to each other.
Oh, early on, there's a moment where
Andra Day stomps on this kid that's bullying her oldest son, and then comes back to sit on the
porch.
And
she tells the boy after she whoops his ass, "Call your mama, I'll rock that hoe too." And then when she comes back, Glenn Close is judging her like, "You shouldn't do that, you're upsetting your kids." And Andra tells her mom, "I've knocked bitches' teeth out for less." And Glenn Close goes, "Then do it, bitch." This is the environment these kids live in, so it's no wonder that they're exhibiting signs of like post-traumatic stress, right? So I think what learning about LaToya Amons, what I think is clear is that her case got a lot of traction because the people around her also believed in this shit. Like the Child Protective Services people, the nurses at the hospital, the people at church, obviously.
It's very much like the skeleton key. You have to believe, and then it's real.
Right. So because so many members of her community and the people who were in contact with her and her children believe in this kind of stuff, she was able to perpetuate it. Combined with the fact that, not unlike Mommy Dead and Dearest, where like the community is rallying around this family who's saying they're being possessed, it allowed her to like, she wasn't paying her rent, people were giving her stuff. So it's a very interesting case. And what I think the film fails to do, the problem with this film is that the filmmaker is only showing one angle, which is that this is real. They were possessed. It's not exploring the fact that maybe this mother, which is unfortunate because I think Andra Day has the acting chops.
Yeah.
To present as this woman who maybe is manipulating a situation, and maybe a more refined script would have left I should have left this film thinking, were they possessed?
Yeah, the ambiguity of it.
Yes.
Is, for lack of a better word, haunting you.
But because this shit is so out of control and basic and so unserious, as the kids say, it's like, well, clearly they want us to believe that she and her family were possessed.
And it's, I think all this supernatural stuff really messes it up, because all of these women, I think, are giving pretty damn good performances, albeit some of them at different registers than the others. And I don't know that Daniels was able to kind of corral them all as a director. But there's a lot of significant trauma and pain, especially between Andra Day and Glenn Close, that I think is quite visceral. And
that could have been a movie on its own.
I think I feel like I want to see that movie, because there are a couple times where, there's several confrontations with these two women where they kind of each have to tell each other some hard truths that I think land pretty well.
Yeah. Okay, I have like 7 minutes to get through these notes. Tasha Smith playing a pastor is exactly what you would think.
Oh, yeah.
Tasha Smith playing a pastor would be like. It's so unserious.
She's only in 2 scenes.
And then when Glenn Close goes to her for help, because Glenn Close attends Tasha's church, Tasha's like, "We don't do that here. You better go find another church." Okay, so I think the cutest scene in the film is we have a moment where Glenn Close is sitting with Andra Day in front of her, and she's sewing in her weave. And then little Shante, teenage Shante, Andra's daughter, is sitting in front of her while Andra is braiding her hair. And the 2 boys are sitting on the couch, and they're all watching Valley of the Dolls.
And they're quoting all the lines.
And it's so cute. I really like that moment. Okay. Glenn Close has cancer, so she goes to get chemo, and the center she goes to, it's very clear that Glenn Close
likes black men.
She
likes them a lot.
They like her.
She likes younger black men.
And there's a younger black man, Omar Epps is the chemo tech at the center. And Glenn Close shows up all dolled up, full makeup, wig.
Breast
out.
out. Yes.
And Omar Epps is hitting on her so hard.
But wait, before she even walks in the door.
Oh, there's a man sitting outside trying to holler at her.
And she
contemplates.
She stops for a minute. She's like, I gotta go get this done.
But I gotta get this chemo, so.
And then, so Omar Epps is like hitting on her, and there's these other two black women, and they are full on commenting about Glenn Close. And she's like.
And Glenn Close checks them, which is funny. Glenn Close in this movie, my score would not reflect this, but I highly recommend watching this movie. If you thought the opening of Divorce in the Black, the funeral scene where they snatch that man out the casket and go bury them in their front yard, was funny, I think that you would thoroughly enjoy this movie.
Oh, yes. Or if you were highly amused, as I was, at Nicole Kidman peeing on jellyfish burns on Zac Efron in The Paperboy, then this movie might be for you.
There's a scene where it's Shantae's birthday, and because Andra doesn't have any money, she's like, well, let's do something low-key and have a house party. And because Andra has alcohol addiction, she turns the hell up.
Oh, yeah.
But then that's when we meet Miss Lawrence, who is Andra's good friend. He really doesn't have much to do, but he does make an impact while he's there. I believe he's a hairdresser.
Yeah, because that's her line of work.
Because that's her line of work. But then the way it's played out, because he's also a booster, and then she says, go to your retail job, and he works at Saks. So I was confused. Like, do you work at a department store and you're a hairdresser? But whatever. At that party, Andra turns up, and we also get a scene where Omar Epps is singing to Glenn Close.
He's serenading her. Mm-hmm.
That was pretty good. Okay, so Monique,
who's doing Monique.
Yeah.
But now that she's reunited with Lee Daniels.
She looks fabulous.
She
in
looks
her
great.
skirt sets and her high heels, driving her GLS Mercedes. She looks good.
I think we can expect her in every Lee Daniels production.
And I like that.
And I mean, the reading he produced.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned the reading, because I do feel like this is like one notch above the reading, which I thought was a really poorly done movie. But Monique, if you haven't seen the reading on BT Plus, I think it's worth watching for Monique's performance. She is as unhinged as this movie is in that movie.
Yes, but she's a lot of fun, especially the scenes between her and Glenn Close, who clearly hate each other.
Oh, that was my next note. So the second time, oh God, the way Monique and Glenn Close are mean mugging each other. And the second time Monique shows up to the house, Glenn Close comes downstairs with no makeup and no wig and a baseball bat.
And whatever she's wearing on her bottoms is quite memorable as well.
And then she goes outside after threatening Monique, and then sees Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor and smashes up her car. Not too bad, but she does strike it a few times. Okay, Aunjanue. I mean, my thought about her is that she is a critically acclaimed thespian.
She is, yes.
So to see her in this movie is interesting, because I feel like she is trying to give us something we can use. There is a certain gravitas to her presence, but the character, when we first meet her, she's sitting at a McDonald's.
She got some fries.
She ordered a large fry.
Talking about demons.
And her senior small coffee. And she tells Andra, I'm an apostle, a prophet, an evangelist. And just says it like she's so serious about it.
But then she relays the story. It's like, oh, so you failed at your deliverance and you want another chance?
And she's saying all of this so matter of fact that it's just so crazy. Okay. When we see, after the deliverance and all the shenanigans, the next morning we see Andra packing up her home because she's leaving with her children. And that's when Monique shows up. And when we see Andra's face, I'm going to post a picture of that one. There's this wrestler, I think. Her name is Taylor Starling. You've seen this image of her. This lady looks so beat up.
I think I have, yeah.
That's what Andra looks like. This Deliverance whooped her ass.
But the Deliverance, so Aunjanue starts out wearing a very interesting suit. Or it looked like a satin running suit.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Aunjanue shows up to wearing like a satin pajama set.
I'm unsure.
With those bootleg Louis Vuitton patterns. I don't know what she was wearing.
It's matching. I don't understand what that is for, what function. I guess it's to a deliverance. But from the onset, you're like, I don't think she's got control of the situation.
No. Oh, I forgot to mention Glenn Close dies, which I was so like. But
When she dies, you're like, damn.
damn, I wanted more. I wanted her to be at the deliverance.
And she shows up.
Okay, we have 1 minute left. The end of the film, we see 6 months later, Andra finally got her kids back. I wish that this film would have focused on maybe the 6 months of her trying to get her kids back, like going to court dates, and then we saw all this shit in flashback. The way this movie is organized is just...
Like losing Isaiah with demons.
I hate to use the same word over and over again, but it's just so unserious. And I like Lee Daniels for being...
I do too.
...that and going there. And so... I haven't seen a movie of his I didn't find fun at the bare minimum.
I mean, Shadowboxer's crazy too.
But in this instance, I do feel like I'm laughing at it.
Yeah. To me, my first note was it's Claudine meets The Exorcist.
But Claudine's a good movie and so is The Exorcist.
That's true, but there's
but
that...
yes.
There's kernels of that vibe.
Yeah, for sure. What would you give The Deliverance?
It's entertaining, but it's not good. So 2, but I still recommend it.
I have the same sentiment. I would give it 2 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.